Another day, another New York Jets training camp practice in the books. Day 3 of training camp. It was the first practice open to fans. I was there. There were a lot of positives. There were some negatives and a lot of key takeaways to dive into right here on the show. And to do that, we will be joined by Dylan Tereman. You all know him from his own YouTube show and obviously his incredible work over at Jet Nation. Let's go. And DT will join us right after this.
J-E-T-S, Jets, let's go.
Jets wide receiver Wesley Walker. Wesley, how you doing today? ESPN writer Mr. Rich Samini, Jets reporter for The Athletic, Mr. Zach Rosenblatt, Hall of Famer, and Jets legend Mr. Marty Lyons.
Your host, Connor Long.
What is going on, New York Jet fans? Hello, everyone, and welcome back here into another edition of NY Flight Jets Talk right here on the show, Friday, July 25th, 2025. Make sure you smash that like button and hit subscribe on your way into the building. Appreciate you all tuning in. As always, appreciate your support. Throw all your questions, comments, thoughts in the chat. Call into the show with the pinned comment at the top of the chat. Appreciate all your support as always. Again, smash the like button, hit subscribe, completely free, and it helps other Jet fans find us in the work that we do right here on the show. Appreciate all of your support as always right here on NY Flight Jets Talk. It is Connor Long right here with you on the show, and joining us right here on this beautiful Friday evening, the great Dylan Tereman. You know him from his own channel that he recently started, and obviously his incredible work over at Jet Nation. DT, thank you for gracing us with your presence. It is Friday, July 25th at 8 p.m. EST. And how you doing?
I'm doing well. It looks like I held up my end of the bargain, though. You were supposed to have a 22 jersey on, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
I'll give you a little bit of a pass because you've been working hard at One Jets Drive. Congrats again on that incredible milestone of getting into the media section of Jets practice. So keep killing it. I won't get on you too much for not wearing a Tony Adams jersey in July. So I'm glad to be here, man, and I can't wait to chop it up.
I appreciate it, and thank you so much for being here right here on the show. And I'm sorry, I did forget the Tony Adams jersey. Next time, that is the deal. Next time when he is ball hawking for the Jets, he's a starting safety this year, and he has 4 interceptions come week 6 of the season. That's when I will bust out the Tony Adams jersey. Someone at Tony Adams' position, though, Dylan, who did thrive at 1JD today, someone who really did stick out is Andre Cisco, obviously free agent addition for Gang Green this offseason. He laid a very, very, very nice hit earlier today. He was stingy in coverage. He was ball hawking around the field. Really liked what I saw out of Andre Cisco today. Multiple pass deflections. Really liked what I saw from him in coverage overall. Also, I think he gives you some upside as a punt returner, too. I don't know if many people know this, but he has been returning punts at One Jets Drive recently as well, Dylan. How do you think Andre Cisco's able to fit in with this team? Do you anticipate that he's the starting free safety come week 1? How does he fit in with this defense?
Yeah, I think that was an interesting wrinkle. I forget who tweeted it out, but like you just said, he was practicing kick return, I believe, with Xavier Gibson as the other return man in practice. And Pritchett too, yeah. So the fact that he's in the mix just goes to show that, they're trying to find all their ways to get their best guys the football as much as possible. And maybe Cisco, actually excels at returning kicks. We haven't seen it, I don't think, at the NFL level. Perhaps it's something he did back in Syracuse when he was in college, but I'm really intrigued to see what his versatility is. But as far as just defensive responsibilities, I would love him to be that starting free safety who's going to roam as the single high or play split safety coverage with Tony Adams or even Malachi Moore. I've been on the record saying I think Andre Cisco leads all of the safeties in interceptions this season. I hope he can get at least 5, maybe 6, which would be a career high for him. But I think when you have the cornerbacks on the boundary strapping up so well, and then you have the safety play coming up over the top, Sauce or Stevens could be in the hip pocket of the receiver, and then Cisco has his eyes on the quarterback reading the field, and he can come over and make the interception. So I'm really excited about the prospects of Cisco, and I considered him a sneaky midseason candidate for a contract extension because he is only on a 1-year flyer deal. And if halfway through the season we're getting towards the bye week and he's doing what he's doing today in practice, a PBU, tight coverage, 2 interceptions, maybe it's worth extending Andre Cisco and having, continuity at the safety position, which we haven't had since Jamal and Marcus May, which, I mean, it worked until it didn't, right? So I would love to see the Jets actually invest and hit on a safety, and Cisco might just be that guy.
Most definitely. You mentioned the boundary corners there. That's obviously a job that a bunch of people have been monitoring throughout training camp between Azareye'h Thomas, third-round pick this year, and Brandon Stevens, who inked a 3-year, $36 million contract this offseason. Stevens and Thomas both have really stuck out to me throughout these practices, especially Thomas today. He really, really caught my eye. He was staying with receivers, and obviously I know you do a bunch of draft work. Correct me if I'm wrong, but a huge concern with AZ Thomas entering the draft was his speed. People were a little concerned about his speed and his ability to really, fully track wide receivers. I saw a guy who was able to stay with every single wide receiver he was shadowing today. Really, really pleased what I saw overall today from Thomas. And when it comes to Brandon Stevens, nice corner blitz on the first day of practice. Got a pass deflection at the line, almost an interception. He's been great in coverage as well. He's been sticking on his guys. The play where Garrett Wilson, had that crazy moss on day one of practice that everyone was posting about, it was a typical Brandon Stevens play. Right at the ball, great coverage, and then just can't come away with the pick. He's a guy I think Aaron Glenn really, really, is intrigued to work with. And I think he's a player who can make an impact for this team, if he's able to get you 4 or 5 interceptions a season, because, he's able to get to the play. He's always at the play where, the ball is there. But the problem is he can't corral interceptions. He can't hold on to the ball. And that's been the issue throughout his career, Dylan. Do you think there's much of a competition for that job right now, or do you fully anticipate Stevens will be the week 1 starter?
I think Stevens will be the week 1 starter. However, I wouldn't say his job should be secured for the entire season, right? 17 game sample size might be too much. And I think there's going to be, bumps in the road with him. But like you kind of mentioned with the Garrett Wilson clip and even the Mason Taylor clip today, right? He's playing really good coverage, 95% of the play. And then that final 5%, the offense just does better, right? Garrett Wilson, how many receivers that Brandon Stevens is going to cover this season could do what Garrett Wilson did on that play? There's probably a handful, maybe 5 or 6, right? So Brandon Stevens going up against most teams' wide receivers too, I don't think those guys are going to have that same body control, catch radius, just crazy spectacular catch like Garrett has. So I think that bodes well for him. But like you said with AZ, it's just a matter of time for me. Like, he can't stand on the bench long because what he's doing in practice has already been turning heads. I mean, you mentioned the speed being, I guess, one of his issues coming out of college, so to speak, but the hip fluidity, the jamming at the line of scrimmage, his hand usage at the line of scrimmage, able to redirect and throw off the timing of wide receivers' routes. Yeah, the long speed and being able to mirror with the guy 25 yards down the field was a bit of an issue, but it seems for the most part that he's honing in on staying in the hip pocket and really mirroring most of these receivers. I think the tweet was against Xavier Gipson, who is a more shifty wide receiver, right? So it would probably give a guy like AZ Fitz, who plays press, and you don't know which way he's going to go.
That was the overthrow that I think Tyrod it was threw just way too far, ahead of Gibson. I remember watching that play today.
Yeah, so those are the types of things that I'm interested with AZ. Can he just stay in the hip pocket and, like, I guess, unlike Brandon Stevens, turn that completion into a pass breakup or turn that pass breakup into an interception? And I'm not saying Stevens can't do those things. I think this coaching staff and the scheme that they're going to deploy him in will help with that. But obviously, when you see the clips of Garrett Wilson and Mason Taylor against Brandon Stevens, everybody's immediately going to go overpay, start the rookie. And maybe we get to that point halfway through the season, right? But I think Stevens for week 1 and maybe the first month of the season is going to be given the opportunity to start. And I've broken it down, I think, on Jake's show, a couple other places. You look at the schedule, week 1, he's probably going to go up against Calvin Austin or Roman Wilson because Sauce should be covering DK Metcalf in a shadow type role. Yeah. And then you have week 2 against Buffalo, not a true number 1, but some very good 2 and 3 wide receiver types. So Stevens could have an advantage there against Josh Palmer or Khalil Shakir, even Curtis Samuel. And then week 3 against Tampa, Chris Godwin might not play. So if Sauce is, strapping down Mike Evans in a shadow role, he's probably going up against Emeka Egbuka. And then Miami is the real test. when they have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle,
Yes.
two really speedy wide receivers. That's going to be the true first test for Brandon Stevens. So the opening runway for him is a little bit more palatable, I guess, right, for him to continue having his job. But I think it's a matter of time before AZ is just kind of right on his heels, pressing for time with the ones, and I think he deserves it.
Absolutely. I think also when it comes to, watching these defensive backs and watching them sprout overall, I think Aaron Glenn is going to put the best football player on the field, no matter what position it is, but especially defensive backs, given that he was a corner throughout his career. So I really, really like this Jets defensive coaching staff because they have so many former players. And, Isaiah Oliver was speaking with us the other day, and he really, really spoke, and emphasized the fact how important it is to have all these guys on the defensive coaching staff who have played the game before, whether it's Trey Bly, whether it's Chris Harris, whether it's, Aaron Glenn, obviously leading the charge there as this team's head coach. I think getting former players who've played in the NFL before is such an important thing, and I think that's really going to help with the development of a lot of these defensive players. I want to transition up front, though, DT, to the defensive line, the interior of the line. The biggest question, in my opinion, for the New York Jets that could completely alter the season. Week 1, who was lining up opposite Quinnen Williams?
Yeah, if special teams isn't going to derail this season, it's probably going to be the interior defensive line and the ability to stop the run. So that makes me nervous. I would say 1st and 10, that very first play that Rodgers and the Steelers come out and look to go after, I would say it's going to be Nandi for now. Obviously, I think things can change in these couple weeks of camp, but I think he is the most proven. He may have been quote unquote declining in his last couple years in Kansas City, but I don't know if the ascension of Byron Cowart in the final half of last season for Chicago is enough to supplant Nandi and his regression potentially. So I think it's close, maybe closer than I want to admit that Cowart is, on Nandi's heels, but I think it's Nandi in like base run situations, Cowart or Leonard Taylor III in like those gotta have it pass rush situations.
Yeah.
What really makes me nervous is like those 2nd and 5 situations where you might think that the team is going to run it and then they come out and they do like a play action. Like, does Nandi help you in the pass rush game? Like, can he give you a little bit of juice in the pass rush too? I'm not going to say he's just a one-dimensional player, but it's tough because it feels like these guys have their roles as far as pass rush versus run defense, and how they deploy that is going to be interesting. It's not going to be like we saw last year or with the former regime, where it's the front 4 for 2 series, the backups for a whole series, and then they rotate again and keep doing that. It's going to be, okay, 3rd down, we're going to move just one guy off and put this guy on. Like, I can see a scenario where JJ kicks inside when he's healthy next to Quinnen, and you have McDonald and, a guy like Tyler Barron on the outside and like your NASCAR speed rush package, and you can kind of get creative with those wrinkles. So I think it's going to be more versatility based on the defensive front, but it is going to be Nandi, in my opinion, on that very first defensive play for 2025.
I completely agree with what you said there about Derek Nandi. I'm a Derek Nandi fan, and I think he's going to have a big season for the Jets when it comes to run stuffing efficiency on the interior of the line. When training camp calms down a little bit and I'm done writing, 10 articles a day on press conference quotes from Jets X Factor, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write a column. That wouldn't take me much time. It's just after this, I have a ton of I have a ton of quotes to write up. So when I find time, and I'm not waking up at 4 a.m. every morning. When I find time, I'm going to work on a column as to why I think a Leonard Taylor III breakout season does not affect the Jets as much as fans are making it out to be. I've spoken a ton about it on the show. Leonard Taylor III does not fit next to Quinnen Williams. That Leonard Taylor III breaking out is not the saving grace. I think a Leonard Taylor III breakout year looks like a guy who is a rotational piece behind Quinnen Williams, a guy who could come in when, Quinnen Williams needs a breather, a few snaps a game. He can't play on the inside with Quinnen Williams. He's under 300 pounds. They're way too similar. They're both 3 techs. Leonard Taylor III, more of a pass rusher. I think Nandi needs to be in there. They need someone who could space eat. Even a guy like Cowart, he's small. He's under 300 pounds. The Jets need a big body who could take off the double team, who could space eat on the interior of the line. And I think Nandi brings just that. I want to get into some NFL news, DT, that broke yesterday. Christian Wilkins, no longer a member of the Las Vegas Raiders. NYJ, Christian Wilkins, should they make a move?
Yeah, I tweeted out something similar. I was like, do we take a flyer on a guy like Christian Wilkins? I know everything that's happened in Vegas has been very, hairy since signing his, I think, $110 million deal or something like that. He's still got 58 million guarantees, millions of guaranteed money that's locked up right now that they're kind of, I guess they're in arbitration over. They're gonna go back and forth and try to figure out how much of that he's gonna get. At that point, I mean, if he becomes a free agent willing to sign with anybody, which seems like it's going to be the case, you have to entertain it, right? I mean, I don't know if he is Christian Wilkins that was on the Dolphins, right? We don't know if we're going to get that type of player. So you don't want to pay that type of price for a player like this. But if you're able to get him on a cost-effective deal, not the vet minimum, obviously, but if you're going to ask me, do we go out and get Jadeveon Clowney, Zadarius Smith, or Christian Wilkins? If the price is all the same, 10 out of 10 times I'm picking Christian Wilkins. So I would entertain it and I would do the due diligence, which we know the Jets are probably going to do anyway. Does it turn into a signing for the Jets? I'm not sure, but I think that would be crazy interesting if they were able to get a guy like Wilkins, because now you have two guys up front that can do a lot of different things, right? And I know you said Leonard Taylor is more of like the backup or the next closest thing to Quinnen Williams. And Christian Wilkins kind of could be looked at the same way. He's kind of a pass rusher first and foremost, but he gives you juice in the run game too. And I think what we saw from him in Miami was special. What we saw from him last year in Vegas, a little hairy, and then obviously the foot injury, we got to make sure that he's healthy first and foremost. But I would entertain it, but not at a crazy high cost.
For me, Dylan, it is an absolutely no. I'm not taking a flyer on Christian Wilkins. I understand the thought process for people who want to, but this is a guy who's not only coming off a significant injury, might need a second surgery, but most importantly, he's getting up there on age. And there are talks about him being a guy who got paid. He obviously got that nice contract in Vegas, and then his motor just kind of ran out. After he got that contract, he didn't really, have an eagerness to show up and, want to contribute and be a part of something special. That concerns me as well. I think, there are a lot more negatives than there are positives when it comes to taking a flyer on this guy. If it's the vet minimum, maybe, but at the same time, this is a guy who might not play a lot of the year. Do you want to stash a guy on your 53-man roster who might not play a bunch of the year, flipping between active and IR? We might not see a ton of him. I think that's a question that New York Jet fans are going to have to ask themselves, because 53-man roster spots are so valuable in today's NFL. It's just going to be intriguing to see if the Jets would want to take a flyer on someone like that and ultimately hand him a roster spot. Dylan, I want to move over to the offensive side of the ball. I think the offensive side of the ball has looked absolutely beautiful throughout these first three training camp practices. Obviously, we had the big injury scare yesterday with Justin Fields. By the way, for those who are following me on Twitter, I was covering it today. Justin Fields is just fine. I expect him to be back out on the practice field on Monday. I don't think tomorrow. I think the Jets are going to want to give him one more day off, and then Sunday's the players' day off. I think he'll be back on the field on Monday. Dylan, he was running out with the team. He was jogging with the team. He was participating in the stretches. He was, shadowing the quarterback from behind the line of scrimmage. He just wasn't participating. Thank God. The second that news broke, Dylan, my mind went right to Achilles when I heard cart, limping, non-contact, as some were saying. It turns out it was contact. My mind right to Achilles, and then I was writing it up for Jets X Factor, and I was just livid as I was typing up that article. Dislocated toe, though, and he's day-to-day. Biggest plot twist, in my opinion, thus far for the New York Jets, and we know they're going to give us a lot more plot twists this year, for better or worse. Fields, how do you think he's able to fit into Tanner Engstrand's scheme? How important are these practice days for him, and for him to get back out on the field to build chemistry with these guys and, learn Tanner's scheme?
Yeah, I think the one thing about Justin Fields that is a little bit underrated in one of his traits is his toughness, right? You go back to Ohio State when he got his ribs absolutely cracked by Skalski against the Clemson Tigers, and he comes in the next play and he throws a dime in the seam for a touchdown. Like, it's shit like that. It's stuff like that with Justin Fields that gets me so amped up about him, and that's why I loved him in the pre-draft process. So when all that happened yesterday, I'm at work. I do flooring. I'm in construction. So I have my earphones in almost as like earplugs for the saws and the compressors and all the noise, but I'm also listening to Jake's show. And all of a sudden I hear of the Henny bottle pop. And I'm like, dude, what is going on? And he's talking about, it's a non-contact. He's being carted off. And I just went radio silent for like an hour at work, to the point where my boss was like, hey, are you okay? I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. The Jets are going through it right now.
I'll be back on the chainsaw in a second, Jimmy.
Yeah, the Jets are. I was like, it's just Jets related, and he walked away. He knew right away. But then we get the update that it is a toe from Aaron Glenn, and he's like, I don't know the severity, but it's a toe. I immediately just like start clapping. I'm like, yes, It's just a toe. Jets fans, we could breathe the sigh of relief. Like, it's so. This doesn't happen to us, right, Connor? Like, anytime this stuff happens, it's always the worst. So it's okay to to fear the worst. It was not going to consume my day, but at the same time, I was very, very emotional about it. I was like, there's no way this season's over, and we're not even into August. Now, getting more to the question, the schematics, the X's and O's, I have this book here, Game Planning with the did my camera go out? Yeah, Game Planning with the 2023 Detroit Lions, and you can see I have all my notes up here. Bobby Peters on Amazon, guys. This is a great book. I got you can't see it, but I have the Packers one from 2020 when it was Hackett and Rodgers, so I learned about the Rodgers offense that way, and now I'm learning about the Engstrom, Ben Johnson offense, and I'm seeing a lot of concepts in here that I think are really going to help Garrett, but also are going to help Fields and allow him to boot out, change the launch point angle, get outside the pocket where if he doesn't see his guy coming across the field, then he can just check down and run. I want Justin Fields to become a better pocket passer. Don't get me wrong, but you have to emphasize and use the things that he does well, and that's using his legs and changing the launch point. He can throw on the run. I think that's kind of lost in all this. Even scrambling to his left, he has enough strength in his core, and like he doesn't need his base to match up. He can just throw it. It doesn't look great all the time, but he has the strength to do it. So I think with Tanner Engstrand, it's all about giving a look. Maybe it's an under center I formation handoff look, and then coming back with the play action wrinkle that looks the exact same from the bones to the pre-snap to everything. And then you just run the boot action wrinkle off of it. And that's going to allow Justin and the offense to get that one up on the defense and allow them to be less predictable. Anytime we went under center last year, especially with number 0 on the field, 22 players on the field knew where the ball was going, right? So we need to have a little bit less predictability in this offense. And I think that's something Engstrand is going to give us. Is it a matter of can Fields run these plays effectively? So you got to find what works for Fields and also what new things you can introduce in Fields' tool belt to give him those extra tools to become a more well-rounded passer. But I'm pretty, optimistic about what I think he can do. It's just we can't have these little nagging injuries in July that could, snowball into something bigger, right? Rodgers had the calf strain in 2023, and that was the precursor to the Achilles pop. So there's things like that we have to monitor with Fields. The toe, I'm not worried about. Anything like that, I feel like he's just going to tough his nails, tough it out, and come back. So we dodged the bullet, and I'm glad we can kind of keep the trajectory of the offense. Because if he was hurt for too long, you almost have to go to a Tyrod Taylor-led offense, and that's going to look a little different, right? You're not going to get all the
not
same
as significant,
RPOs.
though, I think, as most people believe. Like, even Glenn spoke about it yesterday. I think they have similar skill sets, and I don't mean to cut you off there, but I mean, I get Tyrod Taylor's 35 years old. He could still move. I saw it firsthand today, and I think all these quarterbacks can move. Brady Cook had a read option touchdown today, which was nice to see. I'm a Brady Cook fan. Wednesday and Thursday, Brady Cook was unwatchably bad. He threw a pick 6 yesterday. He overthrew like 6 of his receivers on pretty much every pass the first day. Today, though, converted on some nice touchdowns. He threw some nice balls in the end zone. Almost connected with Brees on a touchdown in the back corner today. And then you obviously saw his legs. Martinez did struggle compared to him looking great the first 2 days. So those guys kind of switch positions today. But I think all these quarterbacks can move, and that's the great thing. Like, I think going from Aaron Rodgers to Tyrod Taylor would have been a way more significant
And we
change
saw that, right? We saw that. Yeah.
And I mean, I was looking, and I understand the teams were playing prevent when Tyrod came in, but I was even looking at, like, when I had to use it for filler on the article that I was writing about, Glenn praising Tyrod or something. But I was even looking at Tyrod's, like, passing, completion percentage last year in the reps that we saw him in. See, I know he only threw 22 passes, but still almost 80% completion. He threw for 3 touchdowns, over 100 yards on 22 attempts. I think actually Tyrod brings a higher floor as a quarterback compared to Fields. I love Fields. I think Fields is going to hit in New York, and I think he's going to be here for more than 1 year. I'm just saying, like, if Fields goes down and has to miss 3 games, it is not the worst thing in the world. Tyrod is literally 28-1 as a quarterback. He is exactly 500. I'm telling you, I think if I think there is a path for this team to win 9 games. I have them winning 8 games this season. Just based on trench play alone, I think it's 7 wins. Like the floor, I think you can go with 5 wins, but if this team has a top 10 offensive line, which I think they absolutely can and absolutely should, with 3 first-round picks and a very, very high second-round pick, hopefully on the field, I think that, it's tough to have a top 10 offensive line and not make the playoffs. I think it's only 4 teams since 2010 that have accomplished that, where they have a top 10 offensive line and don't make the playoffs. Like, I'm telling the pessimistic Jet fans out there, don't be so pessimistic. I understand why you're scared. Trust me, last year, I physically couldn't think last year happened. I can't even fathom the fact that happened. This time last year, we're having completely different conversations. I'm telling you, there is a path that this team could go 9-8 and sneak out a wild card spot.
Yeah.
Do I think
100%.
it's going to happen? No, I have them winning 8 games. And if they win 8 games, I am perfectly okay with that. They'd, win more than 7 games for the first time since I've been watching Jets football, which would be great to see. How many wins do you see this team collecting this year, record prediction wise? And by the way, I take my and DT's predictions with a grain of salt. No one had last year's team winning under 10 games, let alone 5-12, worse than 7-10 with Zach Wilson. So record predictions do not mean anything.
Yeah, no, that's a good caveat, because we could sit here and go game by game and do the whole prediction, and then week 1 we throw it all out, right? And we just feel completely differently based off whatever happens in week 1. I'm kind of stuck right now at 7 wins, and I hate being here because that means that we have 10 losses, which is double-digit losses, and it's so, like, I hate having to sit through 10 losses. Like, just that number, like 9, I'm cool with. 8 and 9, I feel like
it's so different than 7 and 10.
Yes, the sun is shining differently on me that next day if we're 8 and 9. But yeah, I can see the path to 9 and 8. Like you said, you have to have a good offensive line, you have to have a good defensive line, competent coaching, no silly penalties and costly moments on like 3rd and 6 when it's a manageable situation. You false start, now it's 3rd and 11, and damn well it's just going to be a little check down and a punt. We can't have those situations, and I'm glad AG addressed that. Undisciplined teams do not win games. Last year was the exhibit A1 of all of that, and I'm glad that he's kind of correcting that. I'm stuck at 7 wins, and just back to the conversation of the quarterback thing, I do think schematically they are very similar, and they have the same types of mobility between Fields and Tyrod Taylor. Obviously, Fields gives you a higher ceiling, but the floor is a lot higher with Tyrod. I just get worried with the RPO heavy stuff if Tyrod is enough of a threat. I think he can do it. He can run and do the zone reads and the RPOs and things of that nature, but is he enough of a threat for the defense where they can't load up the box to stop the run, and they have to, kind of take advantage of, the situation that he's given them. So I just don't think Tyrod Taylor is enough of a threat to these defenses to run a perfect Angstrom system that Fields would run. But I don't think there would be much of a drop off from just overall quarterback play. You're probably staying in the pocket. You're probably not scrambling. You're probably handing it to Brees more often than you're pulling it and going. Yep. So little things like that. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think there's enough of a drop off between the two. And it's more of a floor ceiling debate than it is anything else. And let's just have them all stay healthy so we don't have to have this conversation. But yeah, I'm stuck at 7 wins. I can be convinced we can get all the way up to 9, but I can also be convinced that we don't hit on the development of the players that the coaches want, Fields included in that, and we have 5 or 6 wins. So it's a big range right now, and it's kind of a lazy answer to just give a huge range of 5 to 9 wins. So I'll go right in the middle and say 7 and 10 is where I'm at, which is the New York Jets special.
Favorite number of wins year in and year out. Appreciate you tuning in. He's Dylan Tereman. I'm Connor Long, right here with you guys on NY Flight Jets Talk. Smash the like button. Hit subscribe. It's completely free, and it helps us grow significantly here on the channel. Questions, comments, thoughts, throw those in the chat. We'll get to your questions Rep NY starts us off today. Says, who will the Jets sign at kicker and punter if the guys they have now don't work out? I will say quickly before you give an answer, DT, the special teams, I've been trying to give it the coverage it receives. I don't know if you've seen my tweets, but
I have.
it's bad. It's bad. I haven't been focusing on the kickers, kicking. I've been more so on the punters. From what I heard, though, from all the guys on the other guys on the Jets beat on Thursday, I wasn't paying much attention to the kickers, but apparently they missed multiple field goals and they missed ones real up close, like within 30 yards. So it was not pretty from a kicking standpoint. Punting wise, it has been lackluster. The first punt of training camp on Wednesday, DT, Austin McNamara on field. I don't know if you know the fields at field 3. So the furthest field.
The furthest one. Yeah.
Furthest field. That's where the punting unit was. And the player, there were no fans, but the players' families were still there. So there were like probably 20 or so people sitting in those stands. And Austin McNamara gets ready to punt it, boot it away. And it goes about 20 yards off the side of his foot and almost hits the stands. Like it almost literally hit someone in the stands. It just landed short of the stands. It was bad from McNamara. Kroger, from where you are, Dylan, down in South Carolina, he's a guy who, from what I've seen, is pretty much the same thing that I saw in college. A guy who has nice finesse, but doesn't really have great distance and doesn't have much hang time. I don't think the kicker or the punter is currently on the team right now. I think the kicker is going to be Nick Folk. That's my hot take. And I think the punter, I couldn't pinpoint a punter. It's someone I think from cut down day at this point.
Yeah, and honestly, both of those positions might come from a cut down day, right? We saw them get rid of the veterans and Greg Z and Morstead, and obviously they're not coming back through the door. Maybe Nick Folk does as like the veteran kicker option. But again, if you're Nick Folk and you have the Jets and then you have any other team, right? Like where do you stack those up, right? And so it's going to be, hopefully we're the only ones bidding for Nick Folk, and it would be great to have that reunion. I feel like he was the best kicker we've had probably in your lifetime other than Jason Myers. So it's like,
I don't even remember watching Nick Folk. Like the first kicker I remember watching is Sam Ficken. He was terrible.
Ficken. Hell yeah, man.
Ficken, Sergio Castillo, remember that guy?
Yes.
The Seahawks game where he missed like 4 field goals. That was I remember watching that game. The Jets have had so many bad games against the Seahawks. It's not even funny. Whether it was that game like 4 or 5 years ago where he missed like 3 field goals, the one in 2023 or 2, I think it was, where they just got annihilated off the kickoff, and Kenneth Walker had like an 80-yard kickoff return the first play of the game. And then obviously this year you get up 21-0, and then Aaron Rodgers throws an interception to Leonard Williams, and the game switches from there, and the momentum just shifts sides. Side note there, they've had so many bad games against the Seahawks.
It's a weird, like, not a rivalry, but every time it happens, it's like, damn, I hate when we play the Seahawks. And it's kind of like that weird NFC type rivalry. But yeah, to the question, I don't think either of the positions, punter or kicker, are currently on the roster. Like you said, with free agent kickers or punters rather, I don't think there's a name that I could invoke that's going to inspire a lot of confidence right now. So probably on August 26th on cut down day, everybody's going to get from 90 to 53. So that's 37 players you got to cut from. So I think there's going to be at least 1, if not 2 guys that the Jets are going to look to get at the special teams position. But yeah, it's not looking good. 6 of 12, I think yesterday was the stat line for the 2 kickers. One was 4 of 6, and I think Mevis was 2 of 6.
Oh
and
my
Rosenblatt even tweeted, he's like, there was a kick that was so off, I had to ask somebody if he meant to do that. Like that's not the update we need, right? And I understand everybody's rallying as why did we cut Thomas Morstead, and we know why we cut Greg Z, but this was part of it, right? They went young at special teams. They went completely inexperienced, even from the coaching perspective, in Chris Banjo. This is what it's going to be, right? Like if you ask me the over under 0.5 games, the Jets special teams is going to screw it up for us. I'm taking the over, man. Like I feel like there's going to be a game where we miss a kick in a clutch situation, or we have a punt that is supposed to go out of bounds and it stays in bounds and they return it for a big return. Something silly like that is going to happen. But that's what you get when everybody is so inexperienced. And if this was a season where the playoffs were on the line for the Jets, I would have a bigger problem with it. But because it's a discovery year, I can kind of understand why they did this, but at the same time, you have to show competence. And if you don't even get that out of your guys, you will have to make a change.
Absolutely, and I just think you need someone who has experience in this building. And I'm not a huge. I understood moving off of Morstead. I was a huge fan of them. Obviously, moving off of
Yeah.
Greg Zuerlein. I think this team though needs to find some sort of experience here. Obviously, at both the punter position and then obviously the kicker position here for New York. So this is going to be obviously an intriguing situation to monitor. The word in the Jets press room at One Jets Drive is that Mike Westhoff will be arriving in Florham Park soon. Chris Banjo, obviously one of his proteges from his final coaching years with the Denver Broncos. So, Banjo obviously will get an opportunity to work with him. Westhoff will get an opportunity to kind of oversee this whole special teams unit and, critique things of that nature. And that only helps. There's no negative to having one of the best special teams coordinators of all time.
And I wonder if Westhoff comes in and sees these guys kick, and he turns to AG and he's like, get these guys the F out of here, right? Like, can we bring in somebody who's actually going to kick the ball right? So I will be interested to see just how many days Westhoff is at One Jets Drive, because if he's there for multiple practices and the kickers aren't doing well, I wonder if he tries to, push Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji to make that change sooner rather than later. And then hopefully he can at least, try to develop these guys at worst. So I'm really excited to see Westhoff back in the building. Banjo, like you said, was a guy that came up in the Westhoff tree, we'll call it. And we had a special teams coordinator last regime in Brent Boyer, who came up in the Westhoff tree as well. So it seems like they're doing well picking off the Westhoff tree. And hopefully Banjo is just another guy who, continues to be here for multiple regimes if things go wrong. But I'm excited to see Westhoff back. I think he's one of our better coaches for sure.
Most definitely. And Jay Lauren, keep in mind, it's hard to evaluate how they're doing giving. This is not in pads. Saw some good plays today, but still way too early. Was there. The big thing I saw was the coaching. Yeah, AG was running around the field, asserting authority, monitoring every single position group, and that's the way it's been for every single practice in Florham Park, New Jersey thus far. It's tough to evaluate the actual on-play activity, but you can, recognize a guy running a nice route. You could recognize, quarterback's drop back. Are they getting the ball out quick enough? Those are the things that you can evaluate, and I think those are the most important takeaways.
Yeah, absolutely. The pads are obviously they're going to be the tell for the trench players, right? Like your defensive and offensive linemen, maybe even your tight ends as far as their run block capabilities. But other than that, most of these practices are basically a glorified 7-on-7 anyway. So we're kind of seeing that happen across the league more and more. I'm excited, though, because I think it's the 5th practice, so not Monday, but the practice after Monday, that they can finally put the pads on. And I think AG is not going to turn down an opportunity to put these guys in pads as much as possible, because physicality and aggression is one of the main things that he's talked about with his, not just the defense, but the offense as well. So I'm really excited to see when the pads come on, like that, the McDonald Membu battle that happened today a little bit. I'm ready to see that full force, and really see where Membu stacks up with these guys. So yeah, take a lot of this with a grain of salt, but you see a Garrett Wilson highlight, you can definitely, react off that, because he's going to do those same things when the pads come on.
Absolutely. What's up, Jack? Appreciate you tuning in. He says, hopefully Braylon Allen turns into a great power back for us this year. Have high hopes. He has been the player who's impressed me most throughout training camp thus far, being at 2 of the 3 practices. So what I've seen in Braylon Allen is, first, they've been integrating him into the passing attack, which I found interesting. They're getting him the ball on swing passes, on screens. They're utilizing him in that way. But just his ability, Dylan, to hit the hole hard and use his 235-pound frame, I really like his vision too overall as a back. I think you put him and Fields in the backfield together, it's a dangerous sight for opposing defenses.
Yeah, I kind of keep going back to this, but I would start Fields in shotgun with Hall and Allen to either side of him. I would motion Brees out to the slot. That hopefully they're bringing a linebacker out of the box, right, to go cover Brees. Even if it is zone coverage, they're going to kind of drift out of the box to keep their eye on Brees, and then you just plug Braylon Allen downhill. He can, you get a hat on a hat, five linemen on the 4 up front defensive linemen and the Mike backer. And then Braylon Allen has to just hit the hole. Maybe he has to make one guy miss or just go through that guy. And then I think that's where he's going to excel the best. So I'm really excited for Braylon Allen too. I know I've said that a lot about a lot of players. I'm really excited to see, but that's what happens when the lack of coaching and the competency of the coaching staff was so bad last year. We just saw no development. And that's kind of what I'm just asking for at this point is, can we at least see tangible development, or can we just not see tangible development and then we know more about the coaching staff and the player? When we just have guys freelancing out there and doing whatever they want and the coach is not even getting the messaging straight to get to these guys, to Rod Taylor's comments, we're definitely a little bit concerning about that. And so for Braylon Allen, I mean, obviously I want to see everybody do well, but he's somebody, to Jack's point, a great power back. We should have high hopes for him, because if he could even be like a B- of what David Montgomery was for the Lions, and then Breece Hall is more of your Jahmyr Gibbs type, and then you obviously throw in Isaiah Davis as your scat back or pass protector because he does that well too. You have a really nice trio here that can actually like carry your offense when the passing game isn't working out.
Absolutely. A couple more questions here before we wrap up the show. And Jay Lauren, the punters stank today, especially the left-footed one. The left-footed.
We got a lefty putter?
That's McNamara, yeah.
Hell yeah.
He's the lefty. He's the one who almost hit like Brady Cook's cousin probably in the stands. So yeah, it was not great on the first day. Not great today either. Did you know this though, Dylan? I remember when they signed the punters, it was kind of in like a dead period. There wasn't much happening. So I remember like literally watching film of punters, and you don't need a 100-yard punt in college.
McNamara or
McNamara?
Oh, what
didn't
happened?
Carry 100 yards, but
obviously, yeah, it bounced and rolled,
yeah.
But like,
so he was in his own end zone. He got, the wind was pushing and pushing the ball out. So it was probably about like a 65-yard punt though.
Oh wow!
And then it just bounced all the way into the other end zone.
Holy crap!
He has power.
That's interesting. I mean, you want to
power.
Yeah, I would take the kicker who has power and hang time over the kicker who has finesse and the ability to throw the ball. Although that is an interesting wrinkle with Kai Kroger, right? I think he had like 8 attempts and like 2 or 3 touchdowns in college. Yeah. But yeah,
Jalen Conyers from
the tight end, Texas Tech, I think.
Yeah, he started multiple games at quarterback in college.
That's crazy, really.
At Arizona State, I think it was.
Wow, really? That's interesting. No, I had no idea.
Let me just fact check that.
It's crazy the amount of like versatility these guys have in high school and college, and then they just stick at one position at the NFL, obviously. But
Conyers did make 2 starts at quarterback for the Sun Devils, including a Week 11 win over UCLA in 2023. So
wow.
And he's 6'4", 260.
That's like Jared Lorenzen status, right? The hefty lefty for the Giants a couple years back, RIP. But yeah, that's interesting. I would take the punter with power and hang time over finesse. But as Lauren says, they stank today, so I don't think we have any business keeping these guys around much longer.
Find someone new. I was even looking into like the free agent punters. They are probably worse. I looked at the list like after they cut Morstead. There's no one on that list.
No. It's like the list of free agent quarterbacks. If we actually had to go down the rabbit hole of Fields' long-term injury, and we're invoking names like Carson Wentz, and I'm ready to just talk about Lenora Sellers and Cade Klubnik.
Dude, I honestly would have rather started Brady Cook than started Carson Wentz personally. Like I would.
It's up for a debate, right? It's not like the worst conversation in the world. It's not the worst take. Like there's definitely people who would agree with that. And what is Carson Wentz going to prove to you at this point that's going to show you
fundamentally broken, in my opinion? Like,
exactly.
Like what
the Chiefs just replaced him as their backup with Gardner Minshew. So like, where are we at here? Like
Gardner Minshew, by the way, I liked Gardner Minshew for a while. He is not a high-end backup anymore. When this guy needed to come in, I mean, last year in Vegas, and I understand it was the Raiders, and they were overall a really poor team. He was unwatchably bad. I think he went 2-7 over 9 games, something like that. I remember listening to Jake's show after Fields went down, and Jake was just, screaming and livid, rightfully so, over talking about the quarter. Someone said trade for Flacco. I said trade for Richardson or Pickett at the time. I was just like, screw it, get me Richardson or Pickett. I wouldn't have hated Jameis Winston. But I would have rather gone to the year with starting like Brady Cook and had Tyrod as the backup, or vice versa, something like that, other than going with Jameis Winston, because Tyrod at least has proven he's a more than serviceable backup. And then Brady Cook could, you never know, potentially be a winning piece for you down the road. It's just Jameis Winston does nothing. When in doubt, put the young guys with upside on the field. So that's the way I think of it. Like, God forbid if there was an injury to happen to Fields. And the Jets even noted it in their official press release, that Fields avoided the significant injury and avoided missing significant time. So
yeah, which is rare. They don't normally say that from the team directly. That's usually like agent driven to like a media reporter like Rappaport or Schefter, and then they tweet those types of things. So for the Jets to tweet that was great, and it was definitely a good sigh of relief, because I couldn't do the Wentz versus Flacco. Somebody even on Twitter, and I'm sure they were a truther at the time, they were like, go get Zach. I'm like, guys, we can't do this. Like, we've gone too far in the last 6 or 7 months since AG was hired, trying to be a competent franchise. We can't let one little injury bring us all the way back to the basement of yeah, exactly. Like, all roads should not lead back to Zach Wilson. And I'm glad they don't. And like you said, I would kind of rather, I wanted them to be proactive if it was a big injury, but at the same time, just go let Tyrod Taylor be the quarterback, Brady Cook or Martinez is the backup. You're kind of in a lost season already if Fields is missing time, because he was your biggest discovery point. If he didn't hit, there's a lot of things that are going to change in this offense come next year. But yeah, I'm very glad that we can all breathe the sigh of relief. We can, wipe our foreheads off, and we're not ending the season before August even gets here.
Justin Fields is healthy. You hope he has a great year, and you hope this Jets team overall is able to win more than, I was going to say break the 14-year playoff drought, but first win more than 7 games for the first time in 11 years. Wouldn't that be nice? Appreciate you all tuning in right here on NY Flight Jets Talk. I'm your host, Connor Long. He's Dylan Tereman from Jet Nation. Dylan, thank you so much for joining us right here on the show. Final thoughts, share those, plug the new channel that already has been growing rapidly, and everything you've been doing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I guess my final thought is it's okay when good things happen to the Jets to be optimistic about it, right? We don't have to overreact and think we're going to go to the playoffs or the Super Bowl just because Andre Cisco made some nice plays and Mason Taylor had a nice catch in the back of the end zone. But there's a lot of positive things that are coming out since training camp has started a couple days ago that the Jets fans could be, they're allowed to be excited about. Obviously, the Field scare was a big one, but there's a lot of positives, man. So I'm not trying to tell everybody how to fan. I will be the last person to tell you how to do it. I have my own way of doing it. I choose to be more optimistic in these times because this is when the football isn't being played, right? And we know that there's only hope in July and August. So I'm excited to see all the positivity. The competence of the coaching staff is a refreshing feeling, to say the least. I love everything AG's been kind of saying about the messaging to the players and not being a undisciplined team. So just seems like we're run by grownups finally, right? So very excited for that. As far as my channel, at Tereman, or at Dylan Tereman, excuse me, my full name. You see it down on the bottom here. I'm on the road to 1K subs. I just got to 500 a couple days ago. I'm at about like 550 or so. So I need watch hours too. That's the thing, is I got to start doing more live shows, more longer form videos for everybody, because my watch hours is what's going to get me monetized. And then I can do memberships, exclusive content as far as longer film breakdowns that I don't care if YouTube hits me with a copyright, because it's for you guys who pay to be a membership. So I don't care about not like losing money on the video. And then I also am going to have, hopefully one day we're going to get some t-shirts out with the DT merch on it. I got a exclusive 1 of 1 DT hoodie for myself, but I'm going to be having t-shirts coming out soon. So I'll have to get your address, Connor, and definitely send you one for being such a big supporter. And I appreciate you having me on. We'll definitely get you on my channel soon. You're going to help me get to 1,000 with all your crazy followers and all your extreme knowledge coming out of One Jets Drive. But I appreciate you, and I appreciate everybody in the chat, and I hope you have a great weekend.
No problem. Appreciate you, Dylan. NJ Loring closed out by saying, sign a kicker off the women's national soccer team.
Woody's a soccer owner now, so he has influence in the soccer space. Like, let's make it happen, Lauren. I'm
Frankie
cool
Vittarini from U Stadium, in his heart of hearts, believes that Woody Johnson is trying to facilitate a move for the Jets to move to London. You see that, Dylan?
It's so bad. I can't get there, man. Like, we're the New York Jets. Like, it's It's the
I
biggest
love London.
market
I
in the
used to love-
United States.
yeah.
I like, everything that has to do with London. I've never been there, but like the Jets are staying in New York. Come on, man.
He's 80 years old. He's in no position to facilitate a move. Jets in New York Jets, and hey, if a women's soccer on kicker or whatever, it's a striker can go better than 4 of 6 from within 20 yards. I'm open to it. I'm open to giving them an opportunity to compete at One Jets Drive. Special teams better get resolved if this team wants to have a successful year. Appreciate you all. Like I said, we're going to wrap up right here on NY Flight Jets Talk. He's Dylan Tereman of Jet Nation. I'm your host, Connor Long, signing off right here on the show. Have a great night, everyone. And as always, JTS, baby. Jets, Jets, Jets. Peace out.